Welcome back to another deep dive into To Kill a Mockingbird.
It's great to be back.
Things are getting pretty intense in Maycomb right now after the trial.
Yeah, things aren't looking so good.
But in Chapter 28, we kind of get a shift in focus.
Right, we move away from the courtroom and into the night.
Halloween night, to be exact.
Oh yeah, Halloween spooky.
And that's not just a random setting choice, you know?
Not at all.
Harper Lee's using Halloween and all its, spooky vibes to create this feeling of, like, anticipation and unease.
Right, it's like Halloween is a time when things are a little bit off.
Exactly.
The line between real and unreal gets blurry.
Yeah, and that's exactly what she's doing in this chapter.
Like she's setting us up for something big.
It's like turning up the volume on the tension slowly, you know?
Totally making us brace ourselves without knowing what for.
Okay, so we start with Scout and Jem walking home after the school pageant.
All bundled up in their costumes.
And it's dark.
Really dark.
No moon, the schoolyard stretching out in front of them.
And the Radley place looming in the distance.
Ooh. I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
It's the perfect setting for something to happen.
Oh yeah, for sure. But at first it seems like everything's normal.
Right. Jem's carrying Scout's ham costume.
Being the protective older brother we all know and love.
Even joking about how quiet the Radley place is.
Like he's trying to reassure himself and Scout that everything's fine.
But then things take a turn.
Remember Cecil Jacobs?
Oh boy.
Always up to no good.
Scout's nemesis.
What does he do this time?
Well, he decides to prank Jem and Scout.
Oh no.
Jumps out from behind a bush to give them a scare.
Ooh, classic Cecil.
But you know, on the surface, it just seems like silly kid stuff.
Yeah.
But Lee is actually doing something really clever here.
Oh, I'm all ears.
See, by having Cecil jump out and scare them, she momentarily relieves the tension.
Like a false alarm.
Exactly. It makes the real threat.
I'm lurking in the shadows.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, wow.
Even more unexpected and terrifying.
It's like misdirection in a movie.
That's a great way to put it.
Lee makes you think the danger is coming from one direction.
And then, bam, it hits you from another.
She's so good at that.
She's a master storyteller.
So after Cecil's prank,
the atmosphere changes again.
It gets even creepier.
Jem starts hearing things rustling clothes, footsteps following them.
Like someone's watching them.
He tries to shrug it off.
But you can feel the tension building.
That feeling of being watched just intensifies.
You know, when you read that passage, you can practically feel the hairs on the back of your neck standing up.
Oh, absolutely.
And then
it's
attack.
Yeah, and the way Lee describes it is just terrifying.
It's so chaotic.
Scout's stuck inside her ham costume, so she can't really see what's going on.
So we're experiencing it all through her limited senses.
Right. She hears Jem scream. She feels someone knock into her.
But she can't see anything.
And that makes it even more scary and disorienting.
It's like a sensory overload.
A jumble of sounds and sensations.
Ripping metal thuds. Jem's cries for help.
And then silent.
Oh, man. And when Scout finally gets out of that costume.
What she sees is just heartbreaking. Jem's lying there on the ground. Hurt Scout's calling for help.
It's just chaos.
Dr. Reynolds and Sheriff Tate show up.
What a scene.
But there's this one little detail Lee puts in that I always notice.
What's that?
Dr. Reynolds makes sure Scout's okay.
Oh, yeah, before he even looks at Jem.
Right in the middle of all the craziness, he takes a second to comfort her.
That's our Dr. Reynolds.
Such a good man thinking of Scout when she must be terrified.
Yes, so while all that's happening, they make another discovery.
A big one.
A discovery that changes everything.
Bob Ewell.
The oak tree.
Under the oak tree.
Bob Ewell, the man who made Tom Robinson's life a living hell.
The man who threatened Atticus.
Who scared poor Helen.
Dead.
Wow. I don't even know what to say.
It's a lot to process.
Part of me is relieved, but then...
something doesn't feel right.
Exactly. Bob Ewell, the villain of the story.
He's gone.
But his death just brings up more questions.
How did it happen?
Who or what took him down? And then there's the big mystery of this chapter.
The mysterious man who saved Jem and Scout.
We know he was there, carried Jem home.
But who was he?
Lee keeps us in suspense.
Doesn't give us all the answers.
Makes us work for it.
Turns us into detectives.
Okay, so let's put on our detective hats for a minute.
All right.
Who are our suspects?
Well, the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Boo Radley.
The mysterious Boo Radley.
He's been this shadowy figure throughout the book.
Yeah. Kind of scary, but also kind of fascinating.
And there have been hints that he's been watching over the kids.
Like those little presents in the knothole?
Exactly. Those were like little acts of protection.
So maybe saving them from Bob Ewell was the ultimate act of protection.
His chance to step out of the shadows and be the hero.
That would be amazing.
Wouldn't it?
But I gotta say, there are some things that don't add up.
Oh.
Like the book says the man who carried Jem smelled like whiskey.
That doesn't really fit with our image of Boo.
Right.
So if it wasn't Boo,
Who else could it have been?
maybe someone else in Macomb heard the commotion.
And came running to help.
It's possible.
Or what if?
What if?
What if it was Atticus?
Atticus. That's a bold theory.
I know, but think about it.
Okay, I'm listening.
Atticus has been through so much with the trial.
The weight of the world on his shoulders.
And now his kids get attacked.
It could push him over the edge.
Maybe he's sapped.
And the irony.
The man who defends the innocent in court.
Takes the law into his own hands.
Wow.
And there's another detail in the book.
What's that?
The way the man was walking.
Walking.
Yeah, like a staccato step.
Like he was carrying something heavy?
Maybe he was trying to disguise his walk.
So it could still be Atticus?
Or
Or someone we haven't even met yet?
a stranger passing through town.
With a grudge against Bob Ewell.
It's a real mystery.
And no matter who it was, their actions have turned Macomb upside down.
The town was already divided after the trial.
And now this.
It's like a powder keg waiting to explode.
Everyone was talking, gossiping, pointing fingers.
And the Finch family will be right in the middle of it.
They've already been through so much.
This will just make it worse.
But even beyond the gossip and the drama,
There's a question of justice.
will anyone ever find out the truth about Bob Ewell's death?
Will the mysterious savior come forward?
Or will they stay hidden?
These are the questions that Lee will explore in the rest of the book.
And they get to the heart of what To Kill a Mockingbird is really about.
Morality, truth, human nature.
This deep dive has turned into a real thriller.
We started with the suspense of the attack.
And now we have this intricate mystery.
It's like peeling back layers of an onion.
Each layer revealing something new and unexpected.
And Lee does all of this while keeping the focus on the children,
Especially Scout.
even with all this chaos around them.
It's Scout's voice that carries the story.
Her innocence that shines through the darkness.
That's what makes To Kill a Mockingbird so powerful.
It's a story about prejudice, injustice, violence.
But told through the eyes of a child who's still learning about the world.
That contrast between innocence and experience.
That's what makes this chapter so impactful.
You know, I think we should pause here for a second.
Okay.
Before we jump into what happens next.
Yeah.
We need to think about the emotional toll this takes on Jem and Scout.
Especially Scout.
She's just a child and she's seen something horrific.
We've been so caught up in the mystery.
We haven't really stopped to think about what she's going through.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine what she's going through, seeing this attack through her eyes, but with our adult minds, you know?
Exactly. The source material doesn't really spell it out for us, but we can tell she's traumatized, remembering bits and pieces.
Yeah.
The struggle, the sounds, Jem screams.
It's all jumbled up for her.
like a nightmare she can't wake up from.
And then there's the fact that someone saved them.
Right, someone was out there in the dark and they intervened.
But who? I keep thinking about what this is doing to Scout. Mentally, she's already had so much to deal with.
It's true. This is a lot for a child to handle, and remember, it's all happening on Halloween.
Ooh.
A night when it's already hard to tell what's real and what's not.
It's like all those childhood fears, the monsters under the bed, the shadows in the closet, they suddenly become real.
It takes away that feeling of safety and security.
Yeah, childhood innocence.
And it makes Scout face the darkness.
The darkness that's not just out there.
But inside people, too.
Bob Ewell. He was the darkness.
And now he's gone.
But doesn't feel like it's over.
No, it doesn't bring closure, does it?
If anything, it feels even more unsettling.
Like a wound that's still open.
So what about Macomb? How does the town react to Bob Ewell's death?
Well, this chapter doesn't really go into detail about that.
Okay.
But we can kind of guess based on what we know.
Okay.
I mean, think about it. Bob Ewell was not a popular guy.
That's putting it mildly.
People hated him, especially after what happened at the trial. I
So
wonder if some people might actually be relieved he's gone.
relieved. Even though it happened like this.
Well, yeah, because he was a threat.
Yeah.
He was always causing trouble, intimidating people.
But-
So with him gone, maybe there's a sense of relief, like a darkness has lifted.
Even though we don't know who did it.
Exactly. It's a strange mix of emotions.
Shock, fear, relief.
And, of course, the big question.
Who saved the children?
That question hangs over everything.
It connects all the pieces of this chapter.
It's the mystery that keeps us reading.
Lee gives us clues, but she doesn't give us all the answers.
She wants us to think for ourselves, to be detectives.
To figure it out alongside Scout.
And that's what makes To Kill a Mockingbird so captivating.
It's not just a story you read, it's an experience.
You're not just watching it happen, you're right there in the middle of it.
Trying to solve the mystery, along with Scout.
And ultimately, I think that's what Harper Lee wants us to do.
To think critically.
To question our assumptions.
To really wrestle with human nature and all its complexities.
Chapter 28, it's a turning point in the story.
Things will never be the same in Maycomb.
It's where the innocence of childhood meets the harsh reality of the adult world.
And it leaves a mark on everyone.
The characters, the reader, all of us.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Chapter 28,
I want to leave you with this thought. What does this chapter tell us about the power of perspective?
how does Scout's limited view of things affect how we understand the story?
It's something to think about as we move on to the rest of the book.
To see how this night changes the Finch family and Maycomb forever.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
And remember, there's always more to uncover.
Keep exploring.
Keep questioning.
And keep those pages turning.